High school graduates have so many decisions to make: go to college, get a job, learn a trade, become an entrepreneur. The choices are endless. However, my special guest today chose to take a gap year to do missions work. Everyone, please welcome Olivia Similian to the show as she talks about her experience on a 9-month missions trip. Welcome to the show, Olivia. Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Miss Drea. Thank y'all so much for continuing to rock with me and roll with me. Listen, I have an awesome guest. This is like my baby cousin, second, third child. I've been knowing you since you were what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Something like that.
7-ish.
Yeah. 7. Cause how old were you when Naomi was born?
I was 8.
Okay, well 8 then. 8. Look, and so now she's 18.
I am 18 years old.
10 years.
Wow.
So, and she has blossomed into such a beautiful young lady. I'm so proud of how she's grown and matured, graduated high school and all that fun stuff. And so today we're going to talk about what her plans were for after high school, what she did, all the amazingness that she did during her year after high school. So guys, welcome Olivia Osilian Similian.
Olivia Osilian Similian.
Yes, listen, if you watched my Father's Day special, you saw her dad give his tribute, and they are such an amazing family. They're part of our family. Like I said, we've been knowing them for 10 years, and great people, dependable, God-fearing people, and they have raised their children that way. And so it shows throughout the way that Olivia, continues to move about her life and as she makes plans for her future. So let's get into this. Let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, Olivia graduated high school. What year?
2021.
2021. So as you were leading up to graduation, what were your thoughts for after high school?
Yeah. My thoughts were, I do not want to go to college. I was like, I don't want to go to college. Everyone keeps asking me if I'm going to go. And I was like, I don't want to go. So looking up like online, I just kind of told my youth pastor that I don't want to go to college and I don't know what to do afterward. And then she told me about this gap year program, and I was like, what's a gap year?
Right.
I never heard of that option before. And so she told me about the World Race, which is like a 9-month long mission trip. And I said, if I'm not going to go to college, I might as well take a mission trip for 9 months. And so I presented that option to my parents.
Okay. And think of, and I just, like I say, she's, just matured into such a beautiful young lady who graduates high school and is like, I want to go on a mission trip. Like, really, if anything, it's like, okay, I just want to chill, because the first time I heard of gap year is when Malia did it, Malia Obama. And so I was like, okay, that is a good option for those that don't want to go straight into college, because you've done kindergarten through 12th grade, 13 years. And so your brain is sometimes on overload. And going straight to college is not for everybody. Now, for those that, you need to just to keep going, to stay motivated, then by all means. But if you have the opportunity to do a gap year, I think that was, a perfect choice. Yeah. And for you to, be open to discuss that with your parents, because I know your parents are probably like, no, we got to go to college.
My parents were like, this is the route you're supposed to take. And I said, well, there is some fresh water over that way. You just have to, knock down the bushes,
Right.
So, okay. Yeah.
So what was your process like once you started talking to them and telling them how much it cost?
Yeah, it cost around $16,000 to fund everything.
Wow.
And so after I presented it to my parents, they were like, okay, we can see that you're serious about this, so what are you going to do to raise the money? And so as I was racking my brain, I was like, oh, I could, do some sales, like a yard sale or baking sale. And then COVID hit. And and I was like, oof, like nobody's gonna want anything at this point.
Right.
And so I was kind of asking her, I was like, okay, you want me to do this, so you gotta come up with something. And then he reminded me of like my dad's power washing, and I was like, okay, well that could like run a business, because I wanted to run a business as well. So I made my business fund my trip, and so it's been 2 years now, and I've been having this power washing business funding mission for it.
Wow. So what she means by power washing, you go out and power wash houses.
Yeah, houses, siding, sidewalks, driveways is my number one thing.
Okay, cool. So thinking about power washing, that's some hard labor, right?
Yes, yeah.
So you can't be like a prissy girl going out and think you're gonna go power wash somebody's house, like. You gotta put some work in. So were you used to working, like just doing hands-on stuff? Like, were you more of a daddy's girl or mama's girl?
I'd say I'm more of a both.
Whoever giving you what you want, basically.
Yeah. Whoever gives me what I want. But no, I think I was just used to like working for what I want, and so my dad wasn't going to fundraise everything,
right?
And my mom wasn't going to. So if I wanted to do it, I knew I had to get down in the nitty gritty of even, like, it didn't have to be labor, but I just chose to be labor. So yeah, it just turned into labor.
Right. And like you were saying, your parents weren't gonna just do it because they could have easily written a check and be like, here you go.
Yeah, they could have.
And then been done.
But that would have ruined so many opportunities for me to meet like so many other people, because fundraising, even though you're not on the mission field, it is a mission part, and you just meet so many new people who are willing to give. You can build like new relationships, and it's such a great experience.
Right. And I feel like people are more willing to give, once they know it's for a good cause and they see that you're motivated and you're encouraged to keep pushing forward, and to see, like I said, keep saying a teenager just kind of going and helping other people and spreading God's word. So I think that was awesome. So as you started to fundraise, what were some of the obstacles that you faced throughout that?
Some of the obstacles were me having to talk to people. Like, I did not want to engage with people and say, hi, how are you? Because that was so out of my comfort zone. And just, like, putting down, like, my pride and saying, okay, obviously I don't want to talk to people, I just want to get the job done. And then they can donate however much they want. But putting my pride down and saying, okay, God, you want me to serve this person and help this person out in whatever way possible. So I said, pride, shoot. And I'm going to talk to this person, step outside of my comfort zone, and see whatever that person has for me to do. And then in turn, without me even knowing it, they poured into me. And it was
Wow. So what do you say that you did, I guess younger, maybe throughout like middle school and throughout high school, that prepared you to be able to step out of your comfort zone?
Honestly, I didn't do much in middle school. I think just seeing my parents and the way that they trusted God, I said, God's for real, so if they can trust God that way, then I can also trust God that way.
As you started to prepare for the items that you had to take, what is like the list of things that you had to take with you?
So a few of them were obviously clothes, but they said, bring clothes that you don't necessarily care about. And I cared about all my clothes, so I went to go buy some more clothes.
Buy some clothes to throw away, basically. Okay.
Yeah, and that was one thing, and learning how to like pack. So I had to get some packing cubes, so that I can stuff it in the bigger bag. A tent, like I said earlier, and for me, like black girl hair things that I needed. I bought shea butter for my skin, and toiletries, like towels. I got a special towel. It's kind of like compacted, so then it's small. Or like toothbrush. You just need toiletries in the, what's it called? A handbag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just a travel bag.
Yeah, a travel bag.
Okay.
So those are the basic things. And then also shoes. I got Chacos and Converse and then Nikes.
Oh. So for 9 months, how many outfits did you take? Like
I brought a week worth or
okay.
2 weeks worth of clothes. And
Okay.
we just recycle
Just
them.
recycle and wash them. Cool. You left on 9/11. So what was that first night like?
That first night, I was laying in my tent, and I said, "What am I doing with my life right now?"
Like, am I really here?
Yeah. I said, "Okay, I'm actually in a tent. This is not temporary." Because before that, we had boot camp, and it was like a camp basically. And so I was laying there. I was like, "Okay, this is not boot camp. Like, you're actually gonna do this for 9 months."
Right.
And it was kind of surreal. I was like trying to wrap my hand around it. 9 months, like I'm gone for 9 months. That was what my thoughts the first night. I was just kind of like, okay, like I'm not going home after this. I'm gonna be here, just laying here. And I was hearing the crickets.
Oh weird. Wow! So the first night, where were you?
I was in a tent in a field with the rest of my squad, and bugs everywhere.
What, were you still in the States?
Yes, I was still in the States for about a month and a half, and we were training there to prepare to go overseas and spiritually prepare, physically prepare, mentally prepare. And then after the month and a half, we finally left.
Oh wow! So a month and a half, you were still here. So you were close by. Yeah. So you hadn't gone all over. So after that time, okay, you said spiritually prepare and mentally. What were some of the things that you all had to do?
We had sessions in the morning and at night, and then for like lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we had portioned food, and we didn't know what it was ever, and so that kind of like eating strange food was like, okay, we're about to go overseas eating strange food.
Right.
Yeah, and it's going to be portioned out. Like you have a specific amount of food, and if there was extras, you could get extras, but.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So they were just kind of getting your body ready, because I'm quite sure for those of us that are used to like eating until we're full, eating until we're stuffed. Oh yeah. Especially if it's something good, and then now it's like, okay, no, your little stomach got to get this little bit right now, and that might be it. Yeah. Until either the next meal or until the next day. Yeah. So wow.
We were hungry. Really? Yes. We were all negotiating because it was my squad and 2 other squads, and so we were interacting with each other, and we said, okay, you got snacks, let's all negotiate, because we were so hungry. So,
wow. Okay. So now you all have, once you all did that month and a half, what was the first country that you all went to?
The first country I went to was Romania, but before that we had a 2-week period where we went to Louisiana, and we were partnered with Sammy's Purse, or Samaritan's Purse. Yeah, we called it Sammy's Purse.
Gotcha.
I was in New Orleans in Louisiana, and working with Samaritan's Purse, working with disaster homes.
So what did you all do there?
We basically tore down like houses inside, so we went into the person's house and took the walls down.
So y'all just gutted it all out?
Yeah, we just gutted the whole house out, and sometimes it was really bad because it was like a hurricane storm. So the roofing would come down, so you have to pull out the fluff that's in the attic because it was molded, and because of that, sometimes we got fiberglass in our skin. So we had to do this for 2 weeks, working hard. It was stuffy and it was messy. You came back so dirty, but it was worth it in the end because people got freedom from that. There was one lady, she said, I like never moved out of this house. This is my house since I was young. This is my mom's house. And so she was learning to let go, and she said, why is God allowing me to go through this, because this is like my house. And so we got to encourage her and say, sometimes God wants you to let go of things. Right. And like, this is just a house. Although it is very important and has memories, because I do understand that attachment. Sometimes God says you need to let go because He could have better.
Something bigger and better.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was just thinking about when you said that you all were gutting this house, that manual labor of you power washing, it prepared you, because I'm quite sure there was some that had never done hard labor.
Yeah.
And so going out there was I can imagine, like, for me, getting out of high school, like, maybe I had mowed the yard with my granddad, but gutting somebody's house, pulling out the what you call it?
The fluff.
Yeah. What is it called?
It's like pink fluff.
It's the insulation.
Insulation.
Yeah. Insulation. The insulation and getting all that and cleaning that out, but I'm quite sure it was just such a blessing. Mm-hmm. So the lady that was there, she was able to move back in, like, after y'all?
No, because everything in the house was destroyed.
It was destroyed.
Yeah. Like, the cabinets were molded, the food was molded, her bed was molded, like, sunken in. It was a mess. But we had to gut her house completely. I think she decided to sell the house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That I know that was like just a maturing experience, an eye opener, because you got to see, like, people in their disparity, like, at the end, and you never had to experience something like that. And I often tell my daughter, like, because we do mission stuff in Atlanta, and we get to see people and help people, and it's such a joy to see, and to be able to help somebody else, to be able to give instead of continuing to receive, but you're able to give somebody something and some hope. And that's good that you all were able to do that. Wow.
And sometimes the manual labor is just cleaning up someone's yard, because the hurricane, like, messed up their yard, and there was this other guy that we went to, and he loved his yard. He took care of his yard, but then he got sick, and then the hurricane came and his yard was messed up. And so we came and we just cleaned up his yard. We took all this fluff, the insulation, like, off the ground, which was really difficult, and we just, like, cleaned up his yard.
Right.
And he was so grateful at the end.
Wow. So do you know what was the process of who they selected, like whose house they cleaned or whatever, or was it just a neighborhood that y'all had to do?
It was a neighborhood, and it was also, they applied and then they paid.
Okay.
They paid beforehand.
Gotcha. Okay. So now, once you all left New Orleans, then you went to Romania.
Yeah, and then we went to Romania.
How was that?
Traveling there was interesting, because it was my first time on an international plane, and it was one of those 3-seater planes, and I was like, wow, this is fancy. This is bougie. It had, like, a TV, food. It was amazing.
Okay. So it wasn't first class, though, was it?
No, it wasn't first class.
But it was just a nice.
It was just a nice plane.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we stopped in Paris, and then we went to Romania, and so overall it was like a 24-hour travel day. It was my first long travel day, and so I was tired.
I bet you was. Time-wise, what was the time difference between Georgia and Romania?
7 hours.
Oh, wow.
So it was difficult to call my family, because by the time my morning starts, it's their night starts. And so it was strange calling them.
Wow. And when you got there, okay, so you said y'all went to Paris. How was Paris? Did y'all have time to go any?
No, it was just a layover in Paris.
So y'all got the airplane and went to another airplane.
Basically. We got to stay there for like an hour or two, but it was only in the airport.
Okay. So when you got to Romania, how was was it a culture shock?
Yeah. So in Romania, there's 2 different parts of Romania. There's the Egyptian, which we call them the Roma community. And then there's just regular citizens of Romania. And so they speak a different language, so that was weird in the first place. not understanding anything in the stores. Like, you can't read the labels. It's all in Romanian. And so that wasn't interesting because we had to cook our own food as well. So we had to like look at the object instead of looking at what the label
What
was.
the label said, yeah.
Yeah.
And hope it was what you thought it was.
One time we were trying to make soup and we got tomato paste instead.
Oh, wow.
And so it was an interesting night to eat. But it was definitely a culture shock because the way they do things is different. One, your fashion is heavily judged. Like, if you come up to them and you are like baggy and just look dirty, they're gonna give you the side eye and like stay away from you. But if you come polished and clean, then they'll welcome you more.
Gotcha.
For sure.
So was this in the Egyptian area or just anywhere in Romania?
This was in Craiova, Romania. Gotcha. Which is, if you look it up, it's like really pretty. It's a really pretty kind of center area. But the Roma community they're Egyptians that migrated to Romania, and they're really, really poor. They're like a poor community. And we went during like the winter time, so it was really sad to see them in like houses where like 10 people were shoved in, barely any clothes, no socks or shoes. If you brought food to them, they would fight over the food. Like, they would bring you down to get the food that they wanted. And so it was really, like, that was shocking because I've never seen that before, like in person. Right. And so it broke my heart to just see children cold and hungry and fighting over one another, their family, for food. Wow. Yeah. And you mentioned about the Roma community that they were poor, because when you said the Egyptians, I'm thinking about jewels and diamonds and women. You know, you see on TV the women with the tube tops and the nice skirts and stuff. So that wasn't the case for these Egyptians. Yeah. And in the regular neighborhoods or the regular citizens of Romania, how were they dressed? Did they wear jeans like us? Yeah, they would pretty much wear like casual, what's it called? Like, business casual. Business, like slacks and stuff like that. They mostly wear black and tan, but you could put like a pop of color in there every once in a while. Gotcha. Yeah. But one time I had jeans that were from Sammy's purse, and so they had like tar on it, and I was just wearing it around because I didn't have anything else to wear. And I remember I was walking up this hill going to the church, and there was this one girl. She looked at me up and down, and she was like, and she kept passing. I was like, man, like they really judge you heavily based off what you look like. What you have on. Yeah. Wow. And I guess that goes to the point, you know, they're judging the book by its cover and not seeing the person that you are. Mm-hmm. So, and she looked like she was about your age, or was it? Yeah, she was probably not. She was probably around 16 years old. Oh, she was younger. But yeah. Wow. Okay. Now, what was some of the other hardships that you all faced outside of it being cold and seeing that there were so many poor people? What are some of the other hardships that y'all faced? Like as a squad. Something else that we had to deal with was living with each other for the first time, like in a house, and learning how to manage the house. Because I mean, I grew up in a house where you had to keep everything clean, but not everybody did. And so just learning to live like, okay, you have your section over there, but if it's a common space, let's keep it clean. Make sure it's and then the bathroom. The bathroom. Look, how many girls in the bathroom? There's probably about like 20. And how many bathrooms? 2. 2 bathrooms. Yeah. Oh wow. And then also the guys. There's only 5 guys, and there's about 25-ish of us. And so the guys had to share bathrooms with girls, and we had to share bathrooms with the guys. Oh wow. And so you just got to learn how to just be respectful and to rotate and to. Oh my goodness. So you said there were about 25. Out of those 25, how many black girls was it? 2. Me included. Me and one other girl.
Now, it was 2 different tribes, right? 2 different groups.
No,
put together.
It
was just one group.
Yeah, we were just one squad, and then we had different teams within the squad.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we had 5 teams, and I was in my team, and then the other girl was in her own team.
Oh, so y'all wasn't even moving together
No.
as a team. You were in. Wow. Okay. So did you all? I guess throughout time, you all were able to connect and build that other bond or whatever. Okay. Yeah. So what was the weather like in Romania? Because what was the time? Because you all went
during November. We went November 5th all the way to January, like the beginning of January, and so it was cold. Like my ministry was to go out and make connections with people, and most of them were teenagers, and so we were sitting outside in the cold, like shivering. And I didn't have any winter boots because I didn't bring them, and it's too thick. So I would bring socks on top of socks, and then like a small layer of just Converse. And then also walking around everywhere in the cold, not really having to bundle up. So we had to buy materials of like a winter jacket because we didn't have anywhere to put it.
Right. Yeah, because if you would have tried to stuff like a big heavy coat or something like that,
that would have taken up a lot of it.
Yes, too much space.
Too much space.
Wow. So like you said, it's cold. Like how many inches of snow?
There was no snow, surprisingly.
No
snow. It didn't rain.
It was just the weather was.
It was just dry, cold air. But on the very last day, it did snow, and I was like, really? Because I like snow, and I was expecting for it to snow the whole time we were there, or most of the time, and it was just the last day when it snowed.
Wow. So looking at the houses, were there like the cottages that you see on TV, or their houses look like our houses?
Their houses were a bit more fancy. The little cottages that you see were probably the Roma community, but then the regular like citizens they had houses more like apartments. They were more like apartments. If it was a large house, you had it from head to toe, and I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of long and narrow, and you have stairs over here. This is my house that I was staying in. Stairs, and then you had this and this. So it's kind of stacked on top of each other. And then you'd have to walk outside to get to the kitchen area. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's kind of like you have dorms over here, walk outside, kitchen.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So it was more like you say the dorm setup, or and I guess that kind of prepares you for college, or to get you ready for living with somebody else, living in a different space, and being able to move. And so you were in Romania till January.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go?
And then we went to Dominican Republic, or the DR. And that it was a little shocking because I came with like 2 layers of clothes, like a sweatshirt and then another jacket. And so going into the DR was hot.
Right.
It's just really hot.
Yeah, I'm quite sure the airplane was like thawing out, like it was freezing. Then when it's flying over to get to the DR, it's like, okay, ice falling off, only in the ocean or whatever. And so I know that was a relief just to get there and to delayer, take off some of all those clothes and stuff. What was one of the most fun things that you did in the DR?
It would be jumping off of 12 waterfalls.
Wow.
You just had to take a leap of faith, I guess. And you just jump and you go straight down like this.
Okay.
And go psh.
So it wasn't a dive, it was just a jump in. But you still had to know something about swimming.
I guess. I mean, you just kind of float to the top and then you walk off.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. Look, it sounds easy enough. Because, I mean, I'm a daredevil, so I would love to do something like that, but I'm not a good swimmer. But you swam in high school, right?
Yeah, I did.
So you had that water thing down pat,
but it was still scary because you're kind of looking down and like, whoa, that's far.
That is, yeah. So, wow. But that's good. Now, what are some of the obstacles that you all faced in the DR?
Some of the obstacles that we faced in the DR would be to get people to talk about themselves. Because we in the DR were working with Haitians, and they came from Haiti to the DR in hopes of a better place or a better opportunity to live. And sometimes they got that and sometimes they didn't. And so just going to their house and saying, hey, like, we're here to see your situation. Well, we didn't say that, but we're kind of there to see their situation, how we can help, and if they need any medical attention, because there was like racial tension there.
Gotcha.
And so just getting them to like open up and say what they needed to say spiritually, physically, and mentally, it was a definite obstacle.
Right. So now, what was special about you interacting with the Haitian people?
I'm Haitian.
Right.
So that was really special. Interacting with the Haitians that we worked with and also the translators, they were also Haitian. And so just getting to know the culture was really fun. It was my favorite country that we went to. And just seeing like how they eat, how they talk in English and in Creole. They didn't really speak in English, but Creole, it just put a smile on my face. It reminded me of my grandpa mostly and my grandma, because they're from Haiti.
He was like, these my people.
Yeah, it was like, these are my people right here. Like, they're so fun and interactive. They love to dance and have music. And my favorite.
And so now you can see where you get it from.
Yeah.
You get it right.
Yeah, they would do some things like poke at you. And then my friend, they would turn to me and they're like, you do that. That's a you thing.
Wow. So you've never been to Haiti though?
No, I've never been to Haiti.
Wow. Okay. So outside of the point that you were doing mission work, like how did it feel just going there and interacting with people and like that light coming on? Like you said, these are people. Like they do what I do. Like that connection.
Yeah, it definitely made me feel a lot closer to my grandparents because I kind of interacted with them but didn't understand them some of the time. And so being able to observe the culture that they grew up in was like eye-opening. Like, oh, they used to do that when they were in Haiti. And this is where my grandma like knows how to cook.
Right.
And my grandpa, like the church that we went to was always loud and interactive. And so whenever my grandpa would take me to church, it was the same thing.
It was right.
And so I think being in the DR helped me to grieve my grandpa's death a lot too. Because the first time when we went to church, I was just sitting there out bawling because there was this certain cologne that the men like to wear, and it reminded me so much of my grandpa. And then on top of that, like the church, how loud it was, and how like just hearing the language, it was like, wow, like this reminds me so much of my grandparents, and it helped me to grieve a lot.
Wow, and get that, I guess, feel that connection and just feel his spirit on you. Because when you left, how long had it been since he passed?
He passed the February, so about like maybe 5 months.
Right. Wow. Okay. And being in that place or being in the DR, what were some of the other things that you all were able to do?
We were able to, like, other than seeing the culture, we were able to help the host that we were with. The first week that we were there, we stayed with them and we cleaned up the campus for them. And also, like, they're Americans that came from America to the DR to help with the Haitians specifically. Gotcha. And the organization that we started with, they were founded in Haiti. So they came to the DR for the Haitians, my bad.
They lived there, like they left America and went to the DR and they lived there permanently.
Yeah, to be specifically in the DR. And so just connecting with the ministry host, because we were ultimately there for them and for the Haitians, was an obstacle because sometimes they would ask us to do things and we didn't want to, like cleaning the dishes. Nobody wants to clean the dishes.
Right.
So just like stepping outside of yourself and dying to your flesh and saying, okay, I'm here to serve. And not for them to serve me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that was an obstacle for everybody.
And so it seems like they created that connecting point, like for those that want to come and do mission work so you could connect with them. and provide the support to the
Yeah,
Haitians.
for sure.
And you did mention about there being some racism or some discrimination in the DR. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Dominican Republic used to be owned by Haiti. My bad. And so then they got freedom, and then the Haitian, it went downhill, and somehow now they're poor. And so the Haitians go from Haiti to the DR, and because of that history, the Dominicans look down on Haitians, and a lot of times they deport them. Like if you're Haitian and you go to the DR and you have a child, they'll tell you to go back to Haiti and get your child's birth certificate there, because they're just Haitian. They don't even want you to have birth rights in the DR. And so it's like that bad.
So you're saying that the Dominican Republic, they're economically more stable than Haiti is.
Yes.
And so the Haitians wanted to get that citizenship in the DR, or at least have their child so they can have those rights. But the DR is like, no, you take you and your baby, go back over there. You're Haitians, right? And so they give them no rights. So did they say, or did you talk to anybody that said that they had a lot of Haitians to come over there to try to get that citizenship?
No, one of the translators that I worked with, we somehow got onto the topic of the difference of racism, and he wanted to go to the U.S., and I told him, well, it's not that easy, especially since you're Black American and you're foreigner. And so I told him it's kind of like racist in the U.S. most of the place, and he said it's also racist here. And I said, I don't know if it's as racist as the U.S. And so we kind of got into that conversation of how, like, the Dominican Republic really hate the Haitians. And, like, for him to be able to just get a job, he has to be able to speak Spanish and be able to blend in with everybody else. Because there are some Black Dominican Republics there who are just Dominican Republic and not Haitian. And so just being able for him to blend in is the best way for him to survive, because they really, like, the government will hunt you down and deport you back.
So I'm just thinking about what you're saying about blending. If I'm a Haitian, I can go to the DR and they can't tell that I'm a Haitian because they're basically the same. They look the same. It's not as different as a Black or a white person.
Right.
They're almost the Haitians and the Dominican Republic. They're basically almost the same color.
Well, some of them are. You have like Haitians. If you're Black, you're automatically labeled as a Haitian. But then you have brown skin. That's the difference. And the Hispanic kind of look. That's what Dominican Republic look like.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they automatically see a dark skinned person.
Yeah, until you open your mouth. That's the key. If you don't, they welcomed me with open arms because they can hear my American accent. But then someone with like a Haitian accent
that speaks Creole,
yeah, they are shamed upon harshly.
Wow. So how long did y'all stay in the DR?
We stayed for 2 months in each country.
And what was some of the things that you say that you missed when you all were preparing to leave?
I miss the people the most, and just being able to hear the language and being surrounded by the fun, uplifting culture. Those were the things that I missed the most. And there was just one family that I adored the most, and I miss them from time to time. I think about them a lot.
Wow. How big was the family? Was it mom, dad, kids?
Yeah, it was sisters and a cousin, I believe, and then their children. They had probably 2 to 3 each. And so they were all living in kind of like a row. It was close by, but it was like a row of just mini houses. And they they welcomed us with open arms, every single time we went there. And they would always be playing gospel music that you would recognize by the tune, but by the words you're like, I don't know what to say.
Oh, so they remixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just fun.
And now these were Haitians that lived in the DR? Okay.
These were technically they're illegal immigrants.
Gotcha. Because that's what I was about to say. How were they able to stay there with with that tension or whatever? So they kind of like under the radar.
Yeah, there's Haitian communities that sometimes the government goes into and deport people. Yeah.
So it seems like it's kind of like what we have here. We have those spaces. I know what's coming to mind is like Clarkson is that space where they could stay. The different nationalities could stay, and it's like a safe haven. But once Trump was in office, I know they were going to different places and deporting people. So wow. So it seems like the government lets them stay there for a while until they get ready to clean house or something, and then they'll go and wow.
And like the government technically doesn't know that they're there, but they ask for your legal documents because the Haitians that I worked with, the translators, they had legal documents to say that they're supposed to be in the DR because they had a job there.
Gotcha.
But a lot of them don't have a job, so they just take them. You don't have anything, they send you off back to Haiti.
Wow. Did you all meet anybody that maybe had been deported and then came back, or maybe they had family that had been deported?
There was this one lady, her sister was deported back, and she wasn't able to come back to the DR. And so it was hard for her. We prayed for her and we heard her story. But she was really sad and devastated because she doesn't know. Like, Haiti is a dangerous place. That's most of the time that's why they moved to the DR, because it's so dangerous. They're killing, they're kidnapped. And so she was worried for her sister. Like, she doesn't know what happened to her sister in Haiti. She could have been kidnapped. She could have been killed. She could have, been sexually deported somewhere else.
Right.
And so she was like just worried about her sister, and we said, I'm so sorry, like there's nothing that we can do.
You can't go over there.
But we prayed for her and we hoped the best.
They didn't have any means of communication when she deported her. Do they have the ones that live in those neighborhoods? Do they have any like phones?
Yeah, surprisingly they did. They always had a phone.
Okay.
And it was not just any like flip phone. It was a brand new kind of like an iPhone or Samsung.
Okay.
Yeah, type phone. It was like, okay, you got a phone, cool. And then they would call family in Haiti sometimes.
Wow. You said y'all was there for 2 months. So when did you all leave?
We left in March.
Okay. And you went
March.
Where?
To Nicaragua.
Wow, how was that?
That was even hotter.
Oh, it was hotter?
Yeah, it was even hotter.
Was it another culture shocker?
Not as much as Romania, and because we're kind of used to like, okay, we're about to hear another language, and it's going to be different food, different people, so we're kind of getting into the routine.
Gotcha. So how are you feeling? Because it's like getting down to the wire, you about to get ready to come home. Were you getting more homesick, or were you kind of getting excited or sad that it was over?
All the emotions. I was happy because it was like, oh, this is my last country. But then I was also like, this is my last country. Like, I'm not, the people that I've been doing ministry with became my family. And so kind of like I'm saying bye. I'm about to say bye to this family that I just made and say hello to a home that I knew before. And so having all those emotions of this is the last country, this is the last food, this is the last people that we're going to interact with outside of the U.S., and this is the last card game that we could play.
Right, right, together. Wow.
Yeah.
What was one of the most fun things that y'all did there?
I didn't do it, but some other people did it. It was called volcano surfing, and it's you hike up, and it's kind of a steep hike
to the top of the volcano.
To the top of the volcano, and then you just take this long board, you sit on it, put your feet out like that, and you slide down, and it goes
straight down. Wow.
Yeah.
So what about the volcanoes? Were they active volcanoes or non-active?
We had a volcano in our backyard, and that one wasn't active. But we did see an active volcano with, like, you saw lava. I saw lava.
You can look over and see was it bubbling or was it kind of calm?
It was bubbling, but it was also calm. It was kind of just like boop, boop.
Just a couple of
moving around.
Wow.
It was weird to see.
I bet it was. And how deep down?
It was pretty deep because it was like a big equator and then another big equator, and then kind of like a hole. And so,
gotcha.
Pretty deep in there.
What did y'all do to prepare to leave?
We had a last dinner together. We got pizza, and we just kind of went around telling each other how grateful we are for one another, and what we've seen each other grow in, and giving. It's called a honey roast. So you roast them, but you also give them a compliment.
Okay. Yeah. What type of ministry work did you all do in Nicaragua?
We had different options for this country. In the past 2 ones, it was whatever the ministry wanted us to do. But in this one, we had a few options. We had farm work on the base. We had helping in the kitchen, going out and talking to people, hospital, and the dump.
The dump.
Yeah, I know that one sounds weird, but the dump is basically a trash mountain where all the trash in the local area would go to this one place, and people would work there. You would go on top of the dump or the trash mountain, and people would take trash and recycle some of it. And however much, like, they had back this big, this tall, this wide, and then they had a small one about this tall and that wide. And however, like, you get paid by the number of bags you had and how full it was. And so there was like a priority ranking in there. The people on the very top got to go around and collect the trash and then go on top. And then for like the first hour or two, they are the only ones up there. And then afterwards, everyone else can get their trash that they want. And so that is important because you can pick out certain trash that you want.
Things to recycle.
Yeah. And so, like, we would be able to go there, share the gospel for about 30 minutes and stories, and then we would feed them afterwards.
Oh, okay. So y'all didn't have to go dumping. No. I
was
about to say, like, how did you know what to take and this and that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were there to minister to the workers. Wow.
And the trash was always on fire, so we would come back in ashes. Especially our feet.
What were the other two? You said the dump, but what were the first two?
Hospital, and that is, we just went to this one hospital, really big, outdoorsy, and you would go around praying for people. And we would split off into like 3 different sections. You would always have a translator, and you would either pray for the children, the preteens, or the elderly. And so we would go into those different sections. You'd literally walk in, you would say, "Can I pray?" And they would say yes or no, and then you would pray. And then you would move on to the next patient, and then you would walk out and go to the next room. And that was hospital. And then farm work, you just helped on the farm. However that was my favorite one.
Right.
And then you would also, for kitchen, you just help in the kitchen. You would like chop up things or clean the dishes, whatever they needed you, sweep the floor.
On the farm, what were some of the things that they were growing?
They would grow like squash and watermelons. But the number one thing that nobody liked to do was yucca. They had a yucca field. And yucca field is a root that grows in the ground, and it grows up pretty tall, and it's like a thick bamboo type texture. They also grow bananas. But you would basically just go out into the field and carry the bamboo because they would chop it off to harvest. And you would carry the bamboo, walk, and then drop it off. And it was hot, beaming hot. So you don't want to do that. And it's also sharp a little bit. So you have to carry it a certain way.
Right.
Long sticks. Heavy too. Yeah.
Wow. And they use the bamboo to build with, or
I don't know what they did that. I don't know, because we stacked it up against a tree. I don't know what they used it for. I don't know if they were supposed to burn it.
What was one of the things that y'all had to do to prepare to leave?
We had we went back to the U.S. for a week to debrief the time being, and we just had sessions, and we had like last squad things to do, like this last meal. This was the last movie that we could watch, just basically soaking up the time and being present, putting our phones down, and enjoying each other's presence. That's what we did.
Okay. When you all first left, how many did y'all start with?
We started with about, I said 25 earlier-ish, about 25.
By the time y'all got back to the last stop, how many had y'all gotten down to?
13.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were people able to, because that was one question I wanted to ask earlier, the first night when y'all were preparing to get ready to leave, were there people like, okay, no, I can't do this? Y'all had people that dropped out then?
No.
Okay.
No. We had someone who dropped out before that, but she had family problems that she had to attend to. So that wasn't really because of the race. But it was on the field where we had a lot of people leave. And then the squad as a whole had to mend together hurt that was caused. And then we kept moving forward because life goes on.
Right. Were there people that left when you were in Romania?
It was during the DR, and then on the last country when so like people left from the DR, and then nobody left after that. So technically we were finished, but as we were transitioning, we had to leave some people behind because they had COVID. And then also some people said goodbye in the airport. So if you're talking about technically we had maybe 19 people finished the entire.
That finished the whole.
But if you're talking about to the very last day, it's 13 people.
Gotcha. You said that you all had to mend hurt. What were some of the things? Can you talk about that?
In the DR, we just had a lot of drama and gossip kind of go around, and then also just people leaving in general. It's I know you, and now we did everyday life together, and we're expecting it to be all the way till the end, but now it's not. And so that kind of hurts a little bit. So yeah.
And I guess you can kind of expect that. You're all teenagers. Yeah. So it is going to be that, that maturing aspect of getting over that he say, she say stuff, or you may have said something in a different tone, and and so now we're assuming things instead of just speaking. And not only teenagers, because adults do the same thing, just make assumptions before they really, know what the whole deal is. But so once you all got back to the United States, was it like a relief, like a weight off your shoulder?
Yeah,
like it's
it was
over?
Wow, we just did that.
We did, right. 9 months.
It's been 9 months. It feels in a way like not 9 months, but it also feels like longer than 9 months.
How would you say that you grew throughout the race?
I would say I grew a lot, especially learning all the lessons that I learned, because the race is like a pressure cooker, and you change a lot within a short amount of time.
Right. I think that as a high school student and going to college, that is a very important time. It is a maturing time, and it allows you that independence. So that you don't really realize how important that time frame is from when you graduate high school and you do that first year of college. And so you doing that ministry work, it was like growth in a whole nother area. It was a whole, that spiritual growth and that independence. So
for sure.
Wow.
I am definitely grateful for that, for my gap year, because I've never been alone before, or without my family, I should say. And so during that time, I learned a lot, matured a lot, and grew independence. Now I can go to the grocery store and pay, paying for the first time on my own without my parents' credit card. I was like, wow, I
appreciation. Like, okay, you're not gonna buy that. That's $15. We may have to do this one. That's 10, or
Yeah, I definitely had to have those self conversations throughout the entire race. Like, okay, this one's cheaper, but this one's better quality. Which one better?
Right. Wow. And then you were on the race. You were Olivia, or no, you changed your name. You were Via.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You were Via. Mm-hmm. So you were not April's daughter, Rutho's daughter, not Nate's sister or Naomi's sister. Mm-hmm. You were just Via. So you got to be yourself, and just to grow and flourish on independently, like not connected to the family, which that is a good thing. But then you got to see yourself and really, really see who you are, and that's like, I think that's major, because we grow up and we're always connected either to our siblings, to our parents, or to our job, or whatever. But that's good that you got to be just you, doing your ministry work and that connection with God. And it's like, God, this is me. Use me.
Yes. And that was the number one thing that we had to do on the race, was say yes all the time to God. Because He would drop, like, you could do this for your family member, technically. Mm-hmm. Or you could do this for the ministry host, or for someone else. And you would have to be willing to say yes. Because if you say no, it's not a bad thing, but there could be a blessing on the other side of that. Or you could bless someone else's day and just make them happy.
It's that faith walk. Being able, like you're saying, just to be open and willing to say, yes, God, I'm here, I'm able, I'm a willing vessel. Use me and allow me to be a blessing to somebody else. Because there's the saying that, you're blessed to be a blessing. Yeah. And so that's why He keeps pouring into you, so you can pour out to somebody else. And so, wow, that's, I think that's big. When you're going out to do ministry work, you don't know exactly how it's going to impact somebody, or
you don't know exactly what you're going to say or do is going to impact them. And you want to, like, the goal at the end of the day is to leave the ministry host either exactly where you left them or better than, but not worse than, because then what are you doing there?
Right. So outside of just the growth, what was one of the one thing that you could say that you took away from
the race? It was learning how to be still. Because growing up, I kind of grew up in a household of just kind of go, or like kind of like, what are you doing? Just stay. And so going into the race, I was expecting the same environment, like subconsciously. And they taught us Sabbath. Before the race, I never heard of Sabbath. I was like, what is it?
Oh, Sabbath? Really?
Yeah. And so they taught on a Sabbath, and then they said, if the Lord had to take a Sabbath, that means you also
we can
have
take
to
a Sabbath. Yes.
And that's also how Adam and Eve kind of started their life, was on a Sabbath. And so just being able to sit still, the verse that says, sit still and know that I am God.
I am God.
Like, I really had to sit still. Like, okay, this is so uncomfortable, because I'm used to going. And so over the course of 9 months, just being able to sit still with God. You don't have to read your Bible or journal or play music, worship. You could literally just sit in silence and be in His presence.
That can make that connection.
And through that, like, you could get a download. You could get revolution. You could forgive somebody, cry, rejoice. Like, there's so much that can happen within that time, because you could just be sitting there, just being in His presence, and then He might want you to read in your Bible, and He will reveal something to you. But just being able to learn how to sit still was, like, really hard to do at first.
Wow. So what's next for you?
What's next is a mission trip back to the DR with my dad this time.
Oh, wow.
Because in the DR they had parent vision trips, which is parents could come to the DR. But my parents didn't come, so I want to take my dad to the DR with all the Haitians, and just
so he can just interact and feel that
presence,
that connection. Yeah. But now because he wasn't born in Haiti.
No.
But has he been?
Yeah,
he's been
to Haiti to visit family.
Gotcha.
And things like that. So that's what's next. It's gonna be around October time.
Cool.
Going back to the DR, and then after that, maybe taking another mission trip. Probably not. In around Christmas time.
Gotcha.
And then going back to college, or not back, but going to college.
Okay, so you're gonna wait and go in January.
Going in January.
So what mom said about that? That waiting another semester.
She just said fine, cause I plan on going to college. I want to go to college, to do entrepreneurship. I feel like God is calling me to college, so He knows I'm going to go. They both know that I am going to go, so they're kind of chill now.
Gotcha. And I guess seeing that you have that connection with God, and it's like we can't get in the way of what God has planned for you. So just let you spread your wings and fly. Look, and let Him guide you instead of us kind of stomping you and holding you back from that. All right. So now that everything is over, would you go back?
No.
Why not?
No. The whole time, although it was great when we came out, I was uncomfortable. Not in the sense of like I'm uncomfortable with people, because they're great. It was just you have to be outside of your comfort zone the whole time. You don't get the food that you want. You don't get the bed that you want. You're not surrounded by like your immediate family. In the beginning of the race, me being a introvert, like not a social introvert, because I grew into a social introvert. But in the beginning, I had to adjust to 30 new people, learn their love language, learn how they sleep. Like if I'm a night owl, but if let's say we're in the same room, you and 2 other people like to go to sleep early, I have to compromise and turn off the light earlier. And so just like learning to keep on, like you're just uncomfortable technically all the time, and it's hot.
Just like I guess adjusting to what other people want or need, and having to compromise your outside of being uncomfortable, was there anything else that made you say that no, you wouldn't go back?
It's just kind of like one of those experiences where you it's just kind of like a one and done. Like maybe I would do it for 2 months with the same people that I just did it with, but it's just kind of like I did it once, it was great, I'll never do it again.
I'm good, right?
Yeah.
So could you be an advocate for world race? Even though that you say you wouldn't want to go again, but could you, just go out and tell other people like the benefits of it and encourage somebody like, it's a possibility?
To be honest, it kind of depends on your background. Like for me, if I was going to encourage another Black girl or a Black man, I would tell them to be aware of like the racial difference. Or it was me and one other girl who was the only Black people, but there was 2 other, I should say Hispanic, I guess, people. But then the rest was majority white, which is a culture difference because you grew up a certain way and they grew up kind of different. And so I am an advocate for the world race, but you have to also be ready to do mission work, because if you're not, then you're just like a fish out of water, and your mission work might not be overseas. It's somewhere else.
Gotcha. Like I had never heard of it until you said that you were going. So maybe they could advertise in the different neighborhoods, or in the Black community, even through the churches, because you said that somebody from your church had told you about it, and I'm not sure if, like you said, the financial reasons, because that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money to raise.
Yeah, and how long of a time did you have to raise the money?
It depends on when you sign up. Normally, it's like a year.
Gotcha.
But I had 2 years because I knew 2 years before that I wanted to do it. Yeah, so I just accumulated the money for a year and then put it into the system the year after.
Gotcha. So when you applied, did you apply 2 years before? You had to wait to that.
I had to wait because they have it's the yearly like route thing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So yeah, that's important. World Race. If somebody's working there and you're listening, you need to advertise in these other communities because we are giving people as well. I am amazed that just at your growth and your maturity and just though your willingness to go out there and to serve. Because a lot of us we want to be served. We don't want to serve, or we want to get the benefits of that, but we don't want to put the work in. So you put the work in, and you have benefited from that, and you have grown. And I'm so proud of you, and I wish you nothing but the best. Look, you always have an open door over here. Anything you need, anytime you need me to hook you up with you. So I appreciate you. Thank you all so much for rocking with us. Thank you, Via. You know what? Tell them how they can follow you on Instagram.
You can follow me on Instagram. It is priceless.via. That's my I don't know, my
ad. IG handle.
Yeah, and it's also on Facebook. And
it's the same thing on Facebook, priceless.via. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, follow her and go back. Look, if you need to go back and look at her blogs from the World Race and then her mission trips that she's gonna continue to go on and be inspired. Be inspired to either do your own mission trip. And I feel like you don't have to go across the world to do mission. You can mission right here in your home or right in your neighborhood. For those that live in Atlanta metro area, I know you see the shelters and know about the homeless shelters, and I know you have some in your community, but you can do mission work anywhere. Yeah. And so don't think that, she went out of the country and I can't afford to go there. You can have mission work right in your neighborhood and right in your community. So thank you all so much for rocking with us. Please like, share, comment, hit the bell. Subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time I post. We will see you all later. God bless. Until next time, smooches.
Don't let today's obedience be tomorrow's disobedience, and don't let today's yes and being humble be tomorrow's pride. I don't know who needs to hear that, but I feel like you need to sit with that statement and be with God.
I appreciate that. Oh, look at this.